Good afternoon, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today, again, we are honored to have Kittu with us. Welcome, Kittu.
Thank you.
And we are in the ideal of human unity, a brief summary of chapter 6, and we go into chapter 7.
Very brief summary. Very briefly, to put it this way, the age of empires is almost over. Not almost over. Because to turn an empire into a psychological unit has become impossible today because individuality has developed and all nations have got a certain individuality and they don't want to lose it at any cost. So that is over. So he comes towards the end. The problem we have to consider narrows itself down to this. Is it possible to create a securely federated empire of vast extent and composed of heterogeneous races and cultures? This was written 100 years back, and his approach has been intellectual, not looking at from that. So he has to take it into account that might be it is possible. So with that he moves on to the next chapter. So now if you want to create an empire that will last, it has to be a federal empire. It can't be too much centralized. It has to be federal. Founded on the creation of a true psychological unity. If the psychological unity can be created, then there is a chance that this will last and be enduring. So now he says that this is a very important practical paragraph. The first natural idea of the human mind in facing any problem is to favor the idea which most flatters and seems to continue with familiar notions. I'll read one more sentence, you'll understand. For the human mind in the mass is averse to a radical change of conception. Now, you take the mass in general, everywhere in the world, it's very difficult to change it. It is by nature dull, conservative, and rooted to its old habits and traditions. I have no objection to traditions, but you accept a tradition after the thinking process. Then you accept something and reject something. But in the mass, it is generally averse to change. Any change, they look upon it as something. So what you have to do is, it accepts change most easily when its reality is veiled by the continuation of a habitual form of things, or else by ceremonial, legal, intellectual or sentimental fiction. So it accepts change when it does not feel that it is drastic. It might be drastic, it may move in that way. And in order to prepare man to move into that, you have to create what he calls a fiction. Now this is very important. I think most of us are living on fictions. We believe without having known, analyzed, studied, and possibly experienced. You ask almost any Indian, he will tell you that Ramakrishna was a very great saint. On what basis? He has not read anything of Ramakrishna. He knows nothing of the background. But this idea has been created. It's a kind of fiction, right? Now, if you had gone there and studied and appreciated his life and might be had experiences, you are on solid ground. Very important for all of us. Is Aurobindo spiritually developed?
I want to ask you,
or a reality?
let me ask you this first. You have said that we are all living in a fiction.
In some areas.
In some areas.
Not all.
And what about faith?
Faith is very useful, but ultimately faith has to become a reality. You can't go on saying, I have faith, I have faith, I have faith. That faith has to be translated into some kind of experience on any level, right?
Yes.
And then it becomes knowledge, right? So until that portion is done, and if you want to sell an idea, fiction. All advertisement is nothing else but a fiction. You will use Palmolive soap because Tendulkar and Lata Mangeshkar use it. Is that the way of knowing it? Right? So this is a fiction. And so when a change has to take place, we create a fiction. So what I'm saying is that general humanity, and including all of us, in many areas, it is fiction. It is not a reality. Right? It is not an experience. And unfortunately, it's all the time happening here. Whenever we desire something strongly and it is fulfilled, then you say it is Mother's grace. Right? And there is somewhere a comment where Mother says that it is good to have faith, but it could be coincidence. And Sri Aurobindo, in his own humorous way, I have recounted this, I'll recount it once more. When he was sitting in the Chandanagar office and he got what he calls an Adesh, not Chandanagar, Calcutta office, go to Chandanagar. Within 10 minutes, with one little bag, a few books and one set of clothes, he walked straight to the Ganges river. Now, Sri Aurobindo was a very important person in politics. He was associated with terrorism, according to them. So they used to always keep spies around him to watch every movement of his. That day, nobody watched him. He walked straight to the ghat in 10 minutes, went into the boat, went to Chandanagar, and nobody in Calcutta knew where he had gone, disappeared. So Nirodha said in the evening talks, so surely this is an example of divine grace. So Sri Aurobindo, look at his humor. He said, I don't know divine grace or prostitute's grace. These prostitutes took these people away and he was free and so he went away. See, so don't use this word divine grace very lightly. Use it only when every circumstance is a divine grace. I am climbing down the stairs and I tumble and fall down, and then I say, thank you, Mother, divine grace. Then and then only are you really sure that you are on the Because nothing happens by accident. Nothing happens except if it is controlled from there, right?
Yes.
So it is very difficult, huh? Let us have no illusion. But this is a very important lesson to learn. So when you want to change the mental makeup of the mass, you have to create a fiction. And the fiction that Britain had to create was that it was the mother country. And all these colonies like India, West Indies, Australia, Canada were its children. The mother country and their children.
Yeah.
The moment you accepted it, it is finished. Their job is over. Right? And let us have no illusion that a fairly large section of the Congress party at that time accepted it. And that is known as the Congress Moderate Party. All they said are that we are very happy to be under the British Empire, we would like to be there forever, but we would like certain small reforms, so a little like beggars, right? And so Aurobindo, when he came to India, he took a very strong position against this. This petition, pray, and something else, the protest, he said, it's nonsense. We want complete, undiluted freedom. So now, how to change the Indian mind to demand complete freedom? It is not easy. So anything that you want to change, right, you have to first create a fiction. And then when the fiction is created, then ultimately you become, popular, accepted, everybody. You can go at random and ask people what they think of Narendra Modi, and you will find very strong support or very strong criticism. They don't follow politics, they don't understand what is happening, right? But he has a way of talking. He has a way of impressing people. And he is there, right? And I do not know about other countries, but there are regular polls taken to find out the popularity of the leaders, and he is still getting 83%. It's a very huge number, right? And although in Gujarat he did not win as well as he would like to have won, but in any case, people have to believe that this man is genuine, true, honest, right? And the other side has to do the work of trying to show that this person is untrustworthy, unreliable, etc., etc. So that is the political game. Continual fiction.
Both sides.
Both sides, right? And if you want to get out of this fiction, you must be a thinker. You must analyze. Look at the policies. Look at what he is doing. Try to find out whatever you can about the character and the reliability. And then make a judgment. And even then you are not 100% sure, but you have got a good chance of being more or less correct. But most people don't do that, no? So this is a very important idea. We must not get trapped into believing things, right, unless you have had some feeling, experience, and experience is the most important thing. So this is one of the power, the often miraculous power of such fictions cannot be ignored, right? And that depends on the way you present things. Because do you agree with this, that advertisement in general is a fiction? Is it true or not?
Mostly.
Because if it was not a fiction, then I wouldn't bring in Tendulkar and Lata Mangeshkar and famous people. I will say this toothpaste is good because of the following qualities, right? and it is better than the other one because of the following qualities. But here your thinking is taught, oh, Tendulkar is using it, so then I must use it, etc., etc. You see? So this is a very important idea that much of humanity, except when you become a thinker, you accept fictions quite easily. But today it has become much more difficult. So now what he is doing is, we were speaking about how an empire which is heterogeneous, made up of many different cultures, races, and types, can be brought into a psychological unity. But now he is shifting. Same problem in a nation. Because no nation today, even when this book was written, was homogeneous. It was made up of very different groups, which ultimately merged and created what is known as the psychological unity. And so he is now giving you the example of Great Britain. So he says the instance most before our eyes, both of the successfully evolved composite or heterogeneous nation and of the fortunately evolving heterogeneous empire. At that time it was reasonably good because the large number of Indians were in favor of the British Empire. It was slowly, little by little, that the whole thing changed. So he says the British Empire has been composed of an English-speaking Anglo-Norman England, a Welsh-speaking Cymric Wales, a half-Saxon, half-Gaelic English-speaking Scotland, and very imperfectly, very partially, of a Gaelic Ireland. So these 4 distinct groups with a mainly Anglo-Scotch colony that held it indeed by force, but was never able to compel a true union. These were held at the beginning by force, but gradually a true union. Ireland was until recently the element of failure in this unity. And that he has given that the reason was the brutality which they used against the Irish. The more you are cultured, the more you are developed, the more you are individualized, and the more difficult it is to put you under pressure. And this was a terrible miscalculation by Great Britain, that they put tremendous pressure upon the Irish. The result was exactly the opposite of what they wanted. And so even today, Southern Ireland is separate, right? Northern Ireland has more or less come around. Now
But isn't that because of religion also?
Because of the?
Is that not because of religion also?
Partly. But here, as he gives the example, that when there was a famine, which was artificially created, they exploited that famine to the maximum. Now, when you are suffering and somebody takes advantage of you, how can you expect that unity with that person?
That was the potato famine.
That was the?
Potato famine.
I don't remember exactly, it might be.
I know it.
See, now this paragraph is very important. In building up her human aggregates, nature has followed in general principle the same law that she observes in other aggregates. First, she has provided a natural body. Next, a common life and vital interest for the constituents of the body. Last, a conscious mind or sense of unity and a central governing organ through which that common ego sense can realize itself and act. Have you got this clearly or not? First is the natural body, physical structure. Next is a common life and vital interest, which is essentially economical. And thirdly, a central governing organ which represents your sense of your ego sense, right? Now, if any of these are lacking, the unity is under threat. You see, when Pakistan was created in 1947, Pakistan was two parts. The West Pakistan, East Pakistan, separated by more than 1,000 miles. And when the Indian ambassador or whoever it was went to America, to the Russia, and wanted to was been for his swearing in, and at the same time the Pakistani chap also came. So he asked Pakistan, how on earth are you one country when you are separated by 1,000 miles? Right? This itself is a real problem, no? So that's why it is very important to have a piece of land which is, one. Not that it is absolute, but it is a very important fact. Second, there must be a common life and vital interest for the constituents of the body. The main element of vital interest is economics. Now, if one part of India is suffering from famine or suffering from a cyclone or a tsunami, and the center says you can go to hell, you manage by yourself, they will naturally ask the question, why on earth should we stay as part of India? Inevitable or not? So that is the second thing that has to be taken care of. And third is that the man or the people who are in authority, you must feel that they are your representatives. That ego sense, that pride, that he is our man, he is our representative, right? And that is extremely important in order to create, an aggregate which is united. So he is explaining this. There must be in our ordinary process either a common bond of descent, race, or past association that will enable like to adhere to like and distinguish itself from unlike, and a common habitation. A country so disposed that all who inhabit within its natural boundaries are under a sort of geographical necessity to unite. This morning, a French lady entered our guest house. She has been coming regularly. And she says, by your look, although you speak very good French with me, I know straight away that you are Indian. Simply by the physical look. That means we have something of a distinction in appearance from others. Is it true? Anmol? Yes. I think foreigners will realize that more. For you it is so familiar. Is that true to a certain extent? Not absolute truth, but to a certain extent. Yes or no?
Yes.
Luba?
Yes.
You? So now this is very important. Huh? So, in earlier times, when communities were less firmly rooted to the soil, that means they were like nomads, that didn't matter so much. Because today you are here, tomorrow you are there, day after tomorrow you are there, right? But today you are all settled in one place. And very honestly, by the look of some things of a person, the nodding of their head, I can tell you straight away that he is a Tamilian or he is a Telugu. The nodding of the head of the North Indians are slightly different, right? So if you observe a little, if you ask me to define it, I can't, but I can perceive it. So that is one thing. So in order that this may impose itself, there must be a force, a considerable force of this second natural condition. What is it? A necessity of economic unity or habit of common substance, sustenance, and a necessity of political unity or habit of common vital organization for survival. So again, economics plays an extremely important part in uniting an aggregate. Right? Everywhere, even in a small institution, if you are deprived of your economic necessities, inevitably there is going to be a kind of revolt or reaction. And the ashram is a very good example where whatever you might be doing, your economic needs are all met. You are given a house, you are giving clothing, you are giving food, you are giving medical treatment, irrespective of what you are, whether you are liked or you are not liked. That's a very strong bonding of unity. There might be other areas where we have very strong differences, but this is extremely important. But if on this you attack, then it can become very serious. Same thing for a nation. When a nation is in trouble, you see, today Narendra Modi is in Kerala. Why did he come to Kerala? Because there was a terrific cyclone which hit the coast of Kerala and certain other parts. Now, he had to show that he cares for them. He came down, he has satisfied them by giving, or he has given them 324 crores. I don't know whether they are satisfied or not, but it is a very clear sign that he has helped them and that he cares for them because you are part of India. So this is a very important thing. This economic functioning must be done. And in order that this second condition may fulfill itself in complete force, there must be nothing to depress or destroy the third in its creation or continuance. The third is that sense that the Prime Minister or the head is the representative of us. You see, now that is unfortunately politics. One party is trying to show very clearly that Narendra Modi is not representative of India. In fact, today itself, after the Gujarat loss, they said he might have won, but morally we have won, because he is not a true representative of India. They are trying to sow the image, right? Now, this is extremely crucial, because if that image is created, then he becomes weaker politically. So, three things are needed. One, common land to inhabit. Second, a certain amount of economic interchange and dependence. And third, your ego sense must be fulfilled by having somebody who is your representative in a certain sense. If you feel that, then the physical aggregate, the community is more or less safe. Very important.
Then where is the fiction?
No, the fiction is how much do we know of those people at the top? We believe. That is why it is fiction. Now that believing is an act of faith and might be also an act of observing and seeing very clearly what he is doing. You see, when you say that there is a party which says that although we have lost the election, we have won morally because that gentleman is not the representative of the nation, what are they trying to do?
undermined.
They are trying to say that he is not truly Indian. He is not representative of India. We are representative of India, although we have lost. Correct. Now, it might give them satisfaction, but the point is that the power will still remain with those who are in.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this is trying to create an image. And I don't know how successful they are, but that is the whole game of politics, because politics is 80% image. And the hard reality is much less. For that you have to be close to politics, you have to understand, you have to see his policies, etc., etc. And that is a very important judgment also, because for the next voting, you have to be very deliberate and careful that you vote the right man, no? For the good of the country. Formerly, when there was a king or someone who was lasting 10, 20 years, 30 years, your opinion was of no value. But now it has become of value, at least once in 4 years or once in 5 years. Right? So now if Trump seeks for election, I got a letter today, he has no chance at all. Right? So, but for 4 years he is more or less secure. Unless the impeachment process which they have started now, the Democrats have started talking about it at least. If that takes place, then he is gone. Right? So anyway, the important thing is that these three conditions have to be satisfied. A piece of land which belongs to you, an economic stability and interdependence, and your ego sense has to be fulfilled by having a representative of that. Right.
So the piece of land is also cultural.
It is. It has culture. It
Yes.
might have a lot of culture. It certainly influences also the culture, because depending on the type of climate and weather and all that, you will find your dress, your habits, your food, even your music might be slightly different. All right? So now he is coming back to England. And he is explaining that the geographical necessity of union was more or less present. First of all, it was an island. And being an island, it was all quite compact. Right? That was the second thing. The second thing was that the economic unity was created more or less by seeing that all the different parts, Wales, Scotland, etc., were given a reasonable amount of satisfaction. The only failure was, he says, Ireland, where he explains, in the first place, the economic life and prosperity of Ireland were deliberately crushed in the interests of British trade and commerce. So when for your own trade and commerce, you crush another part of your own nation, naturally it tends to become separate. And this was long before Christianity established itself. Then afterwards, when Christianity established itself, England became Protestant, but Southern Ireland became Catholic. Right? So these three ideas are very important. All that he is trying to say is that it's a heterogeneous unit, even the nation. And like the empire, the problem on a slightly reduced scale is exactly the same. To bring all these heterogeneous parts into a kind of unity, for which you need three factors which are very helpful. One is a common piece of land. Second is the economic interests are taken care of. And third is the sense of pride, that ego sense is satisfied by a leader or leaders who when I say leader or leaders, it can be many, because if it is a big country, then there are smaller states, but that person must represent you. And on the whole, England succeeded, except in the case of Ireland. And and that is the main reason why Ireland became completely separate. And might be that was the reason why they preferred to become Catholic rather than Protestant. Might be. One cannot be sure.
Yeah.
So basically this is the idea, right? So now any questions? See, always we are coming back to this. You have to create a psychological union. The factors that help the psychological union are physical land and aggregate, and that is why Stalin asked the Pakistan, how can East Pakistan and West Pakistan be separated by 1,000 miles? I mean, it came to him as a shock, right? So, first of all, a physical aggregate. Secondly, common economic interests and interdependence, and some kind of fairness. And third, the satisfaction of the ego sense as someone who is representative of the whole country. If these three are satisfied, there is a very good chance that this, and that is the whole game of politics. Very categorically they are stating today, Narendra Modi does not represent India. One group. Another group is very categorically saying neither Sonia nor Rahul, they don't call him Rahul to make him look Italian, right, does not represent India. On the belief of the people will depend the next election. 2019 elections are coming. The people have to make a choice. So this party is trying to say he is not representative of India. They are trying to say we are a true representative of India. And it is a little easier for Narendra Modi because after all she is an Italian. And that makes it a little more difficult. See, the same problem took place here. Aurobindo's own brother left Pondicherry because mother was French.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many disciples or devotees of Aurobindo walked out of this place because they couldn't accept mother. Yesterday I got a call from London. Aurobindo, mother is great but I don't accept her. I said, then you don't accept Aurobindo also. I was a little blunt, but what to do?
Thank you, Kittu.